Welcome to Card University. My name is Mark Tallman. I'm the Director of Learning and Development. Today we're going to look at effective communication skills, how to communicate with difficult personalities. This is Part B. We covered Part A. This will be the second part. So open up your training guides and let's turn to page 1 and we're going to look at the overview in professional communication tools. We'll be on page 1. First thing we're going to look at is a quick review of the personality styles. The second point, how to communicate and utilize a communication method called mirror and match, pace and lead. And the third point is we're going to look at what is called a personality styles quick coach, a quick reference for you. So let me just give you a big picture reminder. I know we've gone through this of the 4 personality styles as we dive into the information. Again, remember, your thinker is a slow-paced communicator. They're detailed, information-driven. Your harmonizer, very similar, slow-paced communicator, easygoing and friendly. They're also people-driven, like a socializer. Your socializer is fast-paced communicator, fun, and they're people-driven. These two, again, as we discussed in the last video, are relationship, connection, and people-driven. Your 4th style is charger, fast-paced communicators, intense personalities, all business. They're very results-driven. Again, we talked about what's common between thinkers and chargers is they sometimes come across as impersonal in a communication because thinkers are driven by information and chargers are driven by results. So we're going to flip to page 2 and we're going to look at a communication tool called mirror, match, pace, lead. It's very simple. When you're communicating with your guest, to mirror and match means to reflect the words, the phraseology, the voice inflection of the person you're communicating with. The second point, B, pace and lead simply means you stay at the speed or the pace or the flow of a conversation. So whether you know if someone's a thinker, a harmonizer, a socializer, or a charger is really secondary. Am I mirroring and matching? Am I creating a connection? Am I synchronizing my conversation with that customer? And am I staying at the flow or the pace or the speed of that conversation? Now, what's interesting, just psychologically, when we do these things in the communication, we connect with people very fast and quick. The byproduct is they trust us and like us. And again, in business, their preference is they'd rather do business with us. Now, for example, in personal life, we mirror and match, pace, and lead very easily. You have friends that are thinkers. And when you're around them, you mirror and match them and you stay at their pace and lead. So if they're deep thinking, slow, methodical, you tend to be a little bit more deep thinking, slow, and methodical. Conversely, if you have a friend that maybe they're a socializer or a charger, high energy, when you're around them, you tend to mirror match that energy and stay at the pace or the flow of that conversation. And that just happens in good communication in a natural way. So we're applying these principles here to a business setting. So I'm going to give you some examples. We're going to take some examples here. And if you look in your handout on number 2, point number 2, we're going to look at a guest that's a harmonizer thinker. And we're going to show you how do you apply that phraseology to that guest. So if you look under B, we're going to mirror, match, pace, and lead someone that's a thinker, harmonizer, or in this case, a harmonizer thinker. Both those personalities have some similarities. But what we noticed in the communication is the customer seems very friendly, very connection driven. They seem to communicate very well. That we sense that personal connection and touch. That leads us to believe they might be a harmonizer. But we also notice they have a high attention to detail. So again, whether they're a harmonizer thinker or a thinker harmonizer is really secondary. We mirror that, we match that, we stay at their pace, and we lead from that point with that guest. So the first one I'll give you an example of is sales. Let's say you have a guest. The context is you're in the sales process. You're out on the lot and maybe the customer, they've identified the car they want. It's a touring model And it's just natural. People want to know what the financials are going to look like. So the guest says, back to the salesperson, Mark, thank you so much. I appreciate you walking me through the detail on the different packages. I really think the touring package is going to be the best fit for me. I'm curious, if I didn't put any money down, I just cover the tax and license on the vehicle, what kind of payment would I be looking at? So again, friendly, but we notice attention to detail. So what we do is we mirror and match that, and we come back, maybe in this case, and say, Susan, thank you so much for asking. I know how important that monthly amount is, and I want to let you know it's my personal responsibility to make sure that monthly amount works out for you. Not only that, but I'll make sure that every number on that financial proposal is a good fit for you. I'll make sure you're any amount down. If you lease, if you finance the vehicle you're going to be replacing, I'll make sure that trade value is right, rates of interest. I'll take care of all those financials on that worksheet. Make sense? Now, at that point, that may be enough information for the guest. If the guest does come back and says, well, out of curiosity, I won't hold you to the number, but can you kind of ballpark it for me, give me an idea estimate? Again, this is a sales context, but as a professional, we got to be very mindful. We don't have a credit scoring. We don't have a trade evaluation done. We haven't settled if it's going to ultimately be finance or lease. Maybe we're talking finance. With that said, there's a lot of variables that could affect how that monthly amount works out, either high or low. Even on their trade-in, if they have equity versus they have a high payoff, all that affects how that monthly amount works out. With that said, it's impossible to give a quote and be accurate in a quote in a case like that. So whatever is true about the situation, maybe in that case, we come back and say, Susan, I totally respect your question. I want to be able to give you a number I can actually deliver the car at. At this point, there's so many variables that we have to factor in. For example, it does depend on your trade-in value. Also, if you have equity or you don't have equity in your vehicle, the type of equipment you finally settle on. As we mentioned before, if you lease or you finance, if you lease, how many miles do you want to factor into that lease? So let's do this. Let's make sure that touring model is going to be a good fit. And then what I'll do once we know that, I'll make sure all those financials are in line for you. Make sense? So again, we're mirroring, matching, pacing, leading. Now, let me give you an example, maybe in service. You might be with a service guest, and maybe there's some warranty items that need to be done in the vehicle. Maybe the car's out of warranty, and you got to make a call to Honda to see if they'll actually cover it under the warranty because it's a few thousand miles outside of the normal warranty period. So every personality is going to want information, if you want to call it in a different way. So let's take an example of maybe that thinker as an example. I think you want to be very detailed. So if I'm going to go do something, what I want to say to the thinker is say back and say, Susan, what I'm going to do is when I leave here, I'm going to touch base with my service manager, and we're going to get the warranty person with Honda, and I'm going to walk them through the scenario. Because again, your vehicle is 5,000 miles outside of the warranty. In this case, I typically, we don't see them cover anything in the warranty. But with that said, I'm your advocate. I'm going to present the information, and we'll see if we can't get something done in this case. Once I've got that information, give me probably about 45 minutes. I'll touch base with you again. I'll let you know the status, where we're at, and where the status is on your car. So the point of it is, it's detailed, it's thorough. I'm going to get with the service manager. We're going to contact Honda. We're going to get the information of what they do or won't do in this case on that warranty because it's outside of the warranty period. I'm going to touch back with you in about 45 minutes with additional information. You can even say, if I don't have an answer by that time, I'll let you know I don't have an answer. To thinkers, no answer is an answer. In other words, I don't have any answers. I don't have any information, but I'm on it. I've checked. To the thinker, the fact that you touched base to let them know I'm waiting for that call back is important to them. That is as if they got a partial answer, if you want to call it. Now, the harmonizer would be also very similar in detail. A lot of these are just what I call maybe subtle tweaks, where we just make it more personal. So in that case, maybe it's Susan, thank you so much for your time and your patience in understanding this. What I'm going to do is when I leave, I'm going to check with the service manager, and then we're going to call Honda, and we're going to see if they'll cover this under the warranty period. Susan, I got to tell you, typically when it's out of the warranty period, there's no obligation on Honda's part to do anything. Sometimes goodwill, they'll do something. I'm just letting you know what normally happens. But look, I'm on your team. I'm your advocate. I'm going to go to work for you and see what I can do. Again, give me about 45 minutes. I'll touch back with you at that time. And if I don't have an answer, I'll let you know where we're at in the process. And if I have an answer, then we'll be good to go. Make sense? Again, for the harmonizer, again, friendly, relational, slower pace, methodical, somewhat like a thinker. Now, the socializer, again, we just might speed it up. So maybe if Susan was a socializer, I'm saying, Susan, look, I know your time's important. What I'm going to do is I'll touch base with my manager. We'll get Honda in the line. We'll see what they can do. Typically, I haven't seen them cover anything in cases like this, but look, I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm your advocate. I'm on your team. I'm going to go to work. So give me about 45 minutes. Enjoy your coffee. We have our internet lounge and everything. I'll touch base with you, and I'll let you know the status of where we're at. All I did in that case, I sped up that conversation, more succinct. Also, like the charger, maybe go a little bit more. Maybe with that charger, let's say Susan is that A-type personality. Or I could say, Susan, it's about a 45-minute process. If you'd like to wait, fine. If you've got some other things you'd like to do, you need a shuttle back to home or work, we can accommodate you with that. What I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to get with the service manager. We're getting with Honda. We're going to find out the status on that warranty item to see if they'll actually cover it because your vehicle's out of warranty. Within 45 minutes, I can either come back and meet you in service or give you a quick text message. By the way, do you have a preference? Text, great. I'll text you back and let you know the status. Are you going to need a shuttle ride? Okay, so you want a shuttle ride back home? Fantastic. I'll get that lined up for you now. So again, all we're doing in our communication is subtly adjusting the way we communicate with that customer. Now, here's the reason why to make the adjustments. Because if I'm talking, let's take the last one, like a charger, but the person I'm in front of is actually a thinker, what's going to happen is if I'm moving too fast with not enough detail, the thinker's going to be like, whoa, wait a minute. So what are you going to do? When are you going to do it? When are you going to get back to me? They prefer slow, methodical in that conversation. Chargers prefer just bottom line as you go through. All I want is an answer. 45 minutes, I'll text you with an answer where we're at. It may be that simple for that charger. Again, we mirror, we match, we pace, we lead. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to look at what we call quick coaches. This is a great tool. If you flip the page to page 3, to help you. This is your homework. So, for example, on the thinker, I'm just going to cover 1 and 2. What I did for the quick coach. Some people like to see, what do I do with these people, and what do I definitely not want to do with these people? So I made like a spreadsheet here of here's what you do, here's what you don't do. So if you look at the very first one, with the thinker, prepare your case in advance. That just means be prepared when you're going to have a communication. What you don't want to do with the thinker is be disorganized. The second one you see there is approach them in a straightforward, direct way. Stick to business. There's similarities between the thinker and charger. They tend to be very business-like in the way they want to handle things. What you don't want to do is approach it in casual, informal, or maybe a louder, boisterful way. So again, you see 11 different do's and don'ts. Again, each one of these is just a prompt to remind you. I would recommend, if you have a difficult time communicating with thinkers, get this list in your head. And remember, when I'm in front of this person, I have to look like them, act like them, sound like them, talk like them, walk like them. Now let's go to page 4. And on page 4 in your training guide, you're going to see the harmonizer. Now you see an example. I'll just cover the first 2. This is your homework, by the way. However, briefly, start with a personal comment or conversation. Break the ice, make them feel comfortable, connect with them. What you don't want to do is rush into business or an agenda. A second example is, here's what you do. Show sincere interest in them. Find areas of common involvement. Be open with them and candid. What you don't want to do is stick to a cold or harshly to whatever your business agenda is. So again, each one of these, again, are just reminders. What I would really focus on is your do's. The don'ts, like the opposite side of the coin. So you got one side of the coin is do, one side of the coin is don't. What you really want to concentrate on, here's what I do with these personality styles. Let's go to the next page, and we're going to go to page 5, and we're going to look at a socializer. What you want to do is then plan some interactive conversation with these people. Support their viewpoint, aspirations, or intentions. So, similar to a harmonizer, it's about that connection with that customer. We don't want to stifle the conversation. Same thing on number 2. Leave time for relating and socializing. You don't want to be cold or tight-lipped or, curt in your conversation with them. Again, one more. We've got the charger, A types. The A type, or the charger personality. Be clear, specific, brief, and to the point. That's what you want to do. What you don't want to do is ramble on and waste their time. Stick to business. What you don't want to do is try to build a personal relationship with them. What's interesting is with a charger, when you stick to business and you connect and the trust rapport is made, then they'll be more personal in that conversation with you. But it's really their prompting as opposed to our prompting. And again, if you stick to business and all of a sudden you find out they're personable and friendly with you, it means you've made a great connection with that guest. So let's go on to the last point, which is your actionable ideas, page 7. When you're done with this module, take some time to write out what do you want to actually put into action in your communication with your guest. Again, I want to thank you for your time and participation.